All right, it's just around the corner, maybe days away, your big fall kickoff, and you are super excited and stoked to be with your students one more year. But here's a question for you. How are you communicating this year? Communication is one of those thorns in our sides. We never get it right because there's so many options. But today we're talking about what it looks like to have a strong communication plan for your student ministry today on the Youth Worker Daily. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Youth Worker Daily. My name is Jay Hyam, and here at the Youth Worker Daily, it is our goal, our hope, to encourage you with tools, tips, resources, and helps so that you thrive in your youth ministry. And this week we have been going through and sharing some of what I think are 5 things that you need to have before or when you kick off your new school year. So far we've talked about the need for a year-long calendar. And then yesterday we talked about the importance of having, well, actually not the importance, but just the question of do we still have parents' meetings? And if we do, the benefits and why we're not doing them. But today we're going to talk about something that I said in the intro is sometimes a thorn in our sides because not that it's hard to communicate, but that it is super complicated to communicate. And here's what I mean by all of that. So I remember starting off youth ministry way back in the early, I guess it was the late 90s. Internet was birthing. We were learning how to do email. We were creating these really generic and ghetto type websites. We were all over AOL. And so we were stepping into something that was new and exciting and different. But I remember first when it came to communicating, we had just a couple means in which to communicate to our students and our parents. One was like the church bulletin, and at the time that was probably the primary way of doing it. You had to make sure that your announcements to the things that you were doing were in the church bulletin so that they could be given out every Sunday and parents would see them and kids would see them, or at least that was the hope. But the church bulletin was probably the primary way in which we communicated with our families and with our students. Up next to that, I think we had basically just the phone. Even cell phones. I mean, I guess I had my first cell phone probably I was married, so 96 is really kind of, I think, when we had them. I may have had one in 94, 95, but they would have been like super like ghetto, but not everybody was carrying them just yet. In fact, I remember for our marriage, as my wife and I were getting married, her dad gave us one of those old car phones that was in the big pouch. It was like the full-size phone, and you had to plug it into your car, and it was crazy. But our second line of communication was just the phone, picking up the phone and calling a landline, a house, a residence number, and talking with somebody. And then if you were like, super creative, or maybe you had the old clip art books, you were doing flyers, maybe you were putting a newsletter out. But communication has completely changed from those simple and basic ways we used to do it. Now the internet is huge. We have social media, we have YouTube, we have Facebook. We have so many new ways of communicating with both our students and our parents. And as we think about starting our new year off with our students, the question I want to kind of pose to you is, what does your communication plan look like? What is your strategy for communicating both with students and with parents? Because no matter what you do or how well you think you've developed a plan, you will always hear, "We didn't know." No matter how hard, no matter where you post it, no matter how many times you communicate it, someone is not going to get the message, someone is not going to hear the announcement, and you're going to hear, "We didn't know." So having a strong and strategic communication plan is something that you need to be thinking of. Now, we're not going to talk about like the hows or maybe like the specifics. We're not going to go into Facebook or Twitter and talk about how to use those things. But I want to keep it kind of on the surface and talk more about just recognizing that you need to have a strategy to communicate with parents and with students. Now, here's what I've learned over the years. Again, no matter how hard you try, someone is not going to know something. And I've read books, I've gone to conferences, I've sat in on seminars, all on this, specifically focusing on how to communicate well, not teaching or preaching, but just how to relay information in an effective and efficient way. And honestly, I don't know any speaker or book that I've ever read that has said, if you do this, you will have success. I think it's all trial and error. And just last year, I remember sitting on a seminar that said, ways to communicate. And I'm thinking, please tell me something that I haven't done that works better than what I'm doing. And they couldn't offer me anything. It was a great seminar, lots of great ideas of how to use some of the things that I'm using, maybe a little better than what I was using them. But overall, it wasn't anything new. So here's what I think. When I think about coming into the area of communication, I think it's having a strategy and a plan that you can put into place. So you can at least say, here is how we will communicate with everybody. So I think a couple things. We'll throw them out here to help you think about how this looks. First thing is, you have to have a commitment to actually try to communicate well. Don't go on the assumption that if you say something on a Wednesday night or on a Sunday night that your students are going to take that home and be able to regurgitate it to mom and dad. They're not. Chances are they're not even paying attention when you're giving the announcements. And you can have flashy video, you can have great skits, you can come up with super creative ways to get that information in front of your students. But the likelihood is most of them are not going to remember to go and tell anybody, even if they remember what it is that you're trying to communicate. So, knowing that you need to have that plan in place is going to be super helpful. Now, what does that plan look like? Well, it's going to really depend on the culture of your students and your families and the context of your church. Some churches have dynamic communication plans that they're using top-notch, state-of-the-art apps and phones and internet and all those things that kind of make communication easy. But even with all of that, the missing piece is, will people actually see it and respond? So let me talk about what I plan on doing this year with communication, and then see if maybe any of these things help with you. Well, the first thing that we recognize is I'm going to lay out for parents how we plan on communicating. So if we're using social media, I want to make sure that parents know what apps or what platforms we are using on social media. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. They're generally the three that I kind of stick to. I try not to get into too many other ones. I've got some personal feelings about some other ones and some philosophies about other ones. I don't want to engage, and I don't want to encourage my students to participate in them, even if they're already on that social media platform. But if they're social media, we're going to say we're going to use these three areas in social media for communication. Outside of the internet, our church has a website, and in that website, we actually have the ability to share information in a quick one-stop type of a way, where I can post something on the website and it'll be blitzed out to all of our areas of communication. So I plan on utilizing the website as like the home base for information. So, social media and website. We have a great program here at my church where we promote everything with posters. We hang it all over the church. We put it on the screens up front. It's in our weekly bulletins. And we're going to utilize that. We're going to create graphics, and we're going to use our promotions team to make sure that our stuff's being hung up around the church. It's in the bulletin. It's in the screen. It's up front in front of everybody. So social media, websites, and basically the church setting for promotional. Within the social media, we know that we have a couple different target audiences. Like we know mostly parents are on Facebook, and so we're going to tailor Facebook to be mostly for parents. We know most of our students are on Instagram or Twitter, so we're going to tailor those two social media platforms for our students. We're going to go and we're not going to do a newsletter. In years past, I've done newsletters. They've been super helpful. This year, we're going to move away from that. I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing a newsletter. However, one of the things that we hope to be able to utilize through our website is an email-based reminder system that we will be able to create something, send it out in a mass email for all parents. The final piece of that is going to be text messaging. Again, our church is, I'm super excited. Our church is kind of right there on doing new things and using great resources and tools. And so we have a web-based directory that allows us to create little groups so that we can text little groups, and so all the information is right in there. All I got to do is put together a quick text message. I hit the group that it needs to go to. I push send, and it sends a text message to everybody who is on that or who is in that little group there. So I mean, there's nothing super surprising. I'm not doing anything new, but what I'm saying is I know what means by which I have to communicate. Social media, the website, our church artwork and publicity team, specifically using our social media to hit certain audiences, and then utilizing the text messaging opportunities within some of what we already have here in our infrastructure to communicate. Now, here's the flip side of all of this, because while I have 5 ways to communicate with students and parents, I need to make sure that I am communicating those 5 ways to the parents so that when they are looking for information, they know where to go to look for it. Or if we're trying to communicate, they know how we are communicating it. So if someone is expecting me to call the house phone, if we even have anybody who still has a house phone, that's not going to happen because that's not part of our communications strategy. We're not going to make calls to landlines because chances are, most people don't have them anymore. Are we going to make calls to all of our cell phones? We're probably not going to make calls to all of our cell phones. Are we going to text everyone who has a text number? Yes, we're going to text everybody who has a text number. So knowing those things and being able to communicate, hey, mom and dad, here is how we plan on communicating this year, that begins to let them know how it is that you will share information with them over the course of the year. Now, truth be told, again, this all lies on the parents and the students to actually open those things up, to read that information, and to respond appropriately. And the best that we can do is to continue to communicate from an upfront position. Hey guys, don't forget to check your email this week. Hey guys, don't forget to check Facebook this week. Hey guys, don't forget to be on Instagram and Twitter this week. Letting them know that you're using these forms of communication to get information out to them and encouraging them to be paying attention so that they're seeing the information as it comes out. That's super, super, super important. If you're running Instagram, you're posting stuff and the kids don't know you have an Instagram, no one's going to see your Instagram posts. So communicating, hey guys, don't forget, be following us this week because we have things we're going to be sending you. That becomes part of your communication strategy. So let me sum this all up here real quick. 1, develop your communications strategy or plan. Know how you want to communicate, in what forms you want to communicate, and how you want to communicate to people how you are communicating. We're saying communication way too many times, but that's okay because I'm trying to communicate to you. So get your plan, know how, and let people know what you're using. And the rest, unfortunately, is up to them. Just keep reminding them, check out your system. What do you do when it comes to communication? How do you communicate? What systems do you use? How do you utilize social media? How do you remind students to check those things out? I'd love to hear from you. Leave those thoughts and comments in the space below. We'll have some dialogue back and forth about communication, and we'll learn together. Other than that, guys, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the Youth Worker Daily. Hit that little bell. That way every time we post a video, you know exactly when it goes live, and you can jump over and you can watch it real quick. Also, follow us on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. It's our way of communicating, letting you know what's happening here on Youth Worker Daily. So follow us. Check us out. Look us up. Know, and we will have said that we've communicated well with you. Just don't forget to look. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us today here at Youth Worker Daily. We'll see you next time right here. Later, guys. Have a great week.